Hey everyone, it's Matt.
And this is Lucas.
And this is Thanks for Playing,
the No Fret podcast where we break down the most iconic video games the medium has to offer. What's up, Matt?
Dude, feeling juicy.
How you doing?
Phenomenal, as always, man. Playing some Valorant lately, enjoying life.
Oh, yeah? I'm really bad at Valorant.
I know, I play with you.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad. I'm sitting at a nice bronze, low
I think
bronze.
I got placed into Iron 3. So humbling to say the least. I know my place now in life.
Why don't you tell the audience your main?
I am a Sova main. Best Aerials in the game, best ults in the game. I take my teammates with me as well as the enemy.
I like Brim, I like Sage, and I like Jet, but I'm bad at all of them, so we're going to get there. Don't worry.
Yeah, the competitive in that is a grind for sure, but yeah. I don't know. Something to do.
you just gotta something to do. You just gotta click on their head. That's it.
Just gotta click on their head and don't get hit.
All right, Matt. What game are we talking about today?
All right, everybody. Today we are talking about the number one insurance inspector simulator, Return of the Obra Dinn. Real quick, for those of you that have not played this game, we're going to do a quick run through of the plot of Return of the Obra Dinn. Fair warning, spoilers ahead. So the Obra Dinn, an East Indiaman trade ship, departs from Falmouth to the Orient in 1802 with 51 crewmen and 9 passengers. The ship fails to meet her rendezvous at the Cape of Good Hope and is declared lost. 5 years later, the Obra Dinn reappears off the coast of England with most hands dead. The East India Company sends their chief inspector to determine, that's us, what happened aboard the ship. The inspector has received from Henry Evans, the ship's surgeon and near only survivor, the ship's logbook, the memento mortem stopwatch. With these and other clues, the inspector works out the sequence of events after the ship's launch. The Obra Dinn had launched with a number of passengers, including 2 Royal Formosans, and their guard carrying an exquisite treasure chest. Initially, calamity struck after launch, with 1 crew member killed by falling cargo, and 2 others were taken by pneumonia. However, a small group of the crew saw the potential of stealing the Formosan chest, and as they neared the Canary Islands, they abducted the Royal Formosans and the chest via rowboat. As they rowed away, 3 mermaids attacked the boats and killed several of the group. The mermaids' attack was quelled when a Formosan pulled a shell out of the chest, stunning the mermaids, but dying in the process.
That part was epic.
Can confirm. Confusing, though. Get into that. The remaining crew members returned to the Obra Dinn along with the captured mermaids and their shells, but he is shot on approach by the surviving Formosan guard. As they are brought aboard, the mermaids attack and killed more of the crew before they were subdued and locked in the lazarette.
This part is crazy. Basically, everybody dies. It's like they die at the rowboat part. They die when they bring the mermaids on board, and then they die right after that.
Actually, yeah, there weren't any survivors from that ship. I just realized. Wow.
I think every single person dies on the rowboat.
Good look.
Keep going. Sorry.
The Obra Dinn circled around to return to England due to the increasing number of deaths. As they started their return, the mermaids caused a terrible storm to strike, and a pair of sea demons mounted on giant spider cubs boarded the ship with the intent of reaching the lazarette to liberate the mermaids, killing 9 more of the crew before being put down. Shortly after dispelling the first assault, the ship was attacked by a
Kraken.
A Kraken.
Kraken. It's called the Doom. In the world of the Return of the Obra Dinn.
Yeah. Killing 15 more crewmen and the captain's wife, the captain went to the lazarette and threatened to kill all of the mermaids in hopes of ending the attack. He executed 2 before the final one called off the Kraken. The shells and the surviving mermaid were tossed overboard, with the mermaids agreeing to guide the ship back to England. The surviving passengers and some of the crew decided to abandon the Obra Dinn and make for the western coast of Africa. Knowing that the East Indian Company will investigate via the memento mortem, purposely killed his pet monkey. The surgeon purposely killed his pet monkey. Inside it, they locked the lazarette and kept its paw for safekeeping before leaving with the others. The 3 remaining crewmen turned on the captain, wanting to reclaim the chest and shells as compensation for their hardships. Fair. not knowing he had thrown them overboard.
Compensation for the whole crew getting murdered.
Yeah. Won't argue that. Benefits weren't great back then. Not knowing he had thrown them overboard. The captain killed the mutineers and then, next to his wife's body, committed suicide. Several years later, the insurance inspector is able to catalog all the deaths on the ship except those within the locked lazarette. After the inspector leaves the ship, a fierce storm rolls in and the Obra Dinn sinks. The completed logbook is mailed back to Evans, and the insurance report is written, compensating for the estates of the lost crewmen. A year later, the book is mailed back to the inspector along with the monkey's paw, allowing them to use the memento mortem to discover what happened in the lazarette and complete the story of the Obra Dinn.
Man, this game is awesome. This game is really, really great. I first heard about this game actually through a YouTube channel called The Game Maker's Toolkit. That particular channel is a real big fan of the developer Lucas Pope. I think Lucas Pope is one of the coolest video game developers out right now.
What do we know about him?
Well, Lucas Pope has created a few games. He's had a long video game career, worked at Naughty Dog, created a lot of his own original stuff. We recently played a game called Papers, Please, both Matt and I. For those of you that don't know. Papers, Please was great. I thought it was super cool. I think like there's a lot of design choices in Papers, Please that kind of get echoed in Obra Dinn, although they're very different games. Lucas Pope as a developer is super big about getting inside the head of the player and making the game really happen on the inside rather than the outside. He's just a super talented, super awesome developer. I can't wait for more games in the future.
Yeah, I first heard about it through, I think I want to say I heard about it through another podcast, actually, either GameScoop or Podcast Beyond. I forget which one. But yeah, I heard about it and I heard about Papers, Please. And then obviously you and I finally had the chance to play Papers, Please and talk about it a little bit. And then, of course, I think Obra Dinn was on sale, so we figured why not buy it. And yeah, crazy game. And it really does stand out, honestly, in 2018 because like that 2018 was all around, just in my opinion, a fairly good year for games. Like you had Spider-Man come out on the PS4, God of War, Redemption 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, like a lot of big AAA titles. And I think Obra Dinn very much holds its own against them, even though it's obviously a smaller scale game. It very much fits in its own kind of unique slot.
Yeah. Yeah. First impressions, Matt, what do you think? I mean, unique game, the art style, the deductive reasoning, 60 deaths.
First impressions was, okay, my eyes, like, ow. I don't know why, but the art style, the monochromatic thing he's going for is just like jarring at first extremely. I just wasn't used to ever playing anything like that. I never played any older games like that. So that really caught me off guard. But as far as like the actual game itself, just freaking daunting, man. Like, oh my God. Like it was fun and I was into it. But to give context, I love games like Phoenix Wright, like those kind of deductive reasoning, puzzle solving games. I'm bad at games like
I'm really bad. My video game background, Phoenix Wright, I called my favorite video game for probably 10 years. So I love detective, like deductive reasoning style games. I'm so biased here. This game was incredible. I think this game was amazing. So everything I'm going to say about it's pretty much a good thing. I don't know if Mac says the same thing, hearing his first impressions of it.
I didn't think I was going to be able to beat it. Like, I thought, all right, enough to talk about this game. I'm going to have gotten halfway through it. I don't know what's going on. Yeah,
that was hitting me up. I had to give Matt clues. I had to give him hints.
Yeah, fun game, just very hard for me personally.
No, it's hard. It's hard for sure. There's during the middle part of the game when you start really having to like do some guesswork, it is hard. But I think the challenge was just super intriguing. Honestly, I couldn't put the game down the entire time. I was thinking about it while I was at work. I was thinking about it when I was taking a walk, when I was cooking food, and just thinking about it the entire time, trying to go like, man, who was that guy's steward? Or like, oh man, can I figure out who's who by their uniforms maybe? Just going from there, man.
Yeah, and for me, like up until a certain point, I was thinking kind of the opposite. If you're like, oh shoot, I have to play this game tonight and get caught up. But there was I will say there was a point where I did really start enjoying it. It just took longer than I would have liked, but we can get into that later.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next question here, Matt. For you, the mechanics of the game, understanding how it works. When did the game click for you?
I got the general gist of the mechanics very quickly. After like the first or second memory you go through, because I think everyone, at least I believe everyone starts on the first memory of one of the like seamen trying to enter the captain's quarters. And I caught on it pretty quickly after that. Okay, it's all about dialogue clues and paying attention to the dialogue. And especially once you identify his wife and being able to connect that, okay, that's his wife.
Yep.
And just trying able to deduce things based off of that. That's when I was like, okay, this is how this game's going to work. It's all about dialogue clues and visual clues. And then as you get deeper into the game, it really just becomes about audio clues in general rather than dialogue and visual clues as well. So I caught on very early on, but I would say the game didn't really click for me until I got the hint from you to start paying more attention to my surroundings.
Yeah.
So that was my journey. And I really, honestly, I'll just say I didn't really even start enjoying it until I started paying more, until you gave me the big hints in the Doom. One of the chapters of the game. Because at that point, I was able to start getting more identities. And
what was the big clue that I gave you? I don't even remember what I said.
I think I was pay attention to what's happening outside of the boat during the Doom.
Oh, yeah.
And the big one that like really got me going on the game was there's at the beginning of the Doom, there's guys that try to leave the ship.
Yeah.
And then on the upper deck, like midway through the Doom, there's
they
a
all fall
part
out.
where you just
They all fall out.
you just see in the background a bunch of people in a boat falling. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I never noticed that before. And I had already spent like 4 hours on the game at that point.
Yeah.
So that was where I started enjoying the game because I started getting the dopamine rushes
Love the dopamine rushes
of getting the sound cue knowing you got 3 correct.
Yes. Yes. I love
so
that.
That was for me. How about for you, Lucas?
So I knew what the game mechanics were generally going to be just because I saw the YouTube channel video on the general premise of the game. So I knew what I was getting into right off the bat. I honestly started enjoying the game right after the first corpse. I think like what really pulled me in. Okay. You just got to be smarter, Matt. You got to get better at your deductive reasoning. We'll get there. I think one big surprise that the game, I think didn't cover the video on YouTube really covered like the general premise of the game and obviously covered the cool art style and everything. But what really, really brought me in was the sound design right away, which we're going to talk about a little bit more later. But the moment I find the first corpse and I hear the dialogue between the captain and the 2 people trying to kill him, and then the gunshot and then the music, it was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. It was amazing from the get-go, like from there. And that's when it clicked. I mean, right off the bat, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, just like the realization that you have to look in future chapters to realize what happened in past chapters was really good.
Yeah.
That's when I really started having fun with it and really started, I guess, connecting it more. So I had fun for like 2 hours, but I like the game. I like the game, to clarify.
we'll pick a more like smaller brain game in the future, but art style, man. What do you think, Big Dog? Okay. So honestly, wasn't a big fan of the art style at first. Kind of hurt my eyes a little bit at the beginning. I think so. Okay. I think like the really strong polygon shapes like underneath the ship and like those things are really easy to see, but when there's like things like fire or an explosion, I couldn't see anything. I didn't understand what was going on. And for me, it felt like arbitrarily difficult to see stuff just because it's like, is that fire or is that water? It was just hard for me to understand what something was. And like when things were smaller and granular in specs, then it was like, it hurt my brain to just look at a little bit.
No, I'm with you. Especially the parts like, there's one part in particular where there was a scene where I think it's during the Doom actually, where 2 guys are shot by a cannon and it's just like impossible to tell.
I could not tell
who are these guys? Who's getting
I feel
shot?
so bad for that guy. I think it was Matt Wolf or something Wolf. He got shot in the head with a cannon. It was so brutal.
Yeah, and there's another guy right behind him, but it was so hard to tell and like so hard to tell who was shooting and things like that, just because the art style makes everything kind of blend together to an extent. And the same things like you were saying too, like the fire. There were some parts where I knew, okay, I see this guy died. Is that fire? Like, what is that? You know?
Yeah.
That was pretty frustrating.
That cannon, I think, killed 3 people at once. It killed like 2 guys.
Yeah, it shot 2 people and it crushed one guy.
It crushed one guy. That was a bad cannon to light.
Yeah.
It was a rough time. That part honestly was pretty brutal. Like that, just as a quick aside, like that part of the Doom was so like scary
Dude, the Doom in general was terrible. Had guys getting freaking ripped in half.
I know, a guy got ripped in half. A guy exploded. A freaking.
It was high octane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was high octane, for
especially
sure.
You experience it like in reverse order though too, because I think the first thing you see in the Doom is someone getting crushed at the very end by like a mast or like a rigging or something like that. And then later you see that like they were trying so hard to fight this thing off and like pretty much the whole crew died from the freaking Doom. Oh, it was brutal, man. But okay, back to the art thing. I will say that I did find intention behind the art style a little bit later, which I really enjoyed. I think my eyes eventually did adjust to just the way it looked. And my eyes stopped hurting after a little while. And I think like the intention was that we're meant to be inside of an old black and white picture or drawing. We're essentially living inside the picture that the artist drew in the book, right? And I think like that kind of brought up, because at first it's like, why does it just look like this? Does it just look like this to be an homage? It's arbitrarily a little bit difficult to look at.
Did you play around at all with the settings so we can change like the color of it all?
No, I didn't. I looked and then I switched it immediately back because I didn't want to like.
Yeah, I cycled through them, but I just felt like the game was intended to be experienced through the original, the monochromatic style.
That's what I got.
Something I think would have been good too, going off the comment about how you think it was kind of experiencing the memories through the artist's book. I think it would have been really interesting too if before you entered a memory, like when you're just looking at the shit or wandering the shit looking for corpses.
Yeah.
I think it would have been interesting if that was experienced in a more traditional style, I guess like normal animation, like 3D style, whatever you want to call it. And then when you went into look in the memories, then it went
then you go into the thing,
the monochromatic style, because that would have made it even more jarring and harder to get a grasp on things, I think, which would have made it more challenging and would have furthered the idea of your, I guess, transporting into this book. Yeah. I don't know if that's what the Memento Watch thing was meant to be doing, or if it was just supposed to like let you see the memories rather than the transporting into the book. But if he was going for transporting into the book, I think that would have been an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Sound design. How do we feel about the sound design?
Wow. Phenomenal. I mean, I think you have more to say about this than I do, just from like, I mean, obviously there's the things like so much of the game is just based off the sound and getting things like the audio cues, and the memories to just the music, which I loved the music. I thought it did such a wonderful job of
the music.
The mystery atmosphere. And like, I guess the kind of whodunit movie type genre almost. That's what I felt like I was experiencing because of it.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
And there were parts of it too where like I was usually playing this game pretty late at night, like after I did my stuff for the day, and I would get kind of scared.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just like it put me on edge. And the sound after, so like when you started investigating a new chapter, and after you do like the first run through of the said chapter with the dialogue and everything, and then it goes to the part where it's like you just need to click and then it'll lead you to the next part. There was the sound design there where it was almost like a rattling, I guess. I don't know how to describe it.
The shh.
Yeah.
And
then you would click it and it would lead you. Yeah. The part leading up to where the thing would float, the light ball, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Leading you up to that. I think it was the
soul. It was the soul of the person you were trying to find.
Fuck.
I don't know. I actually don't know. That little light ball fog thing did feel kind of like, what is that?
It was ominous.
It was just ominous.
It was very nervous, but I liked it. It was cool.
I did like the sound design on that thing, though. It was cool. Yeah, I think so. My thoughts is I just think the sound design is so good. I think Lucas Pope in general. I think I mentioned it earlier. Very, very big and very like he prioritizes sound design over a lot of things. I think like there is no animation in this game, and you don't even notice it. The sound is so strong it eliminates the need to animate a gigantic kraken monster. Think about that. It's just literally the gigantic Doom, the crabs, the mermaids, like everything that's like really brutal and like crazy is just told through sound. I think there's some memories that you come upon that don't have a single bit of dialogue. It's just sound. I think there was one.
But the sound lets you visualize what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. You could actually close your eyes and then like kind of deduct what happened. Like on the the sound is like you're able to tell what happened on the boats when people were trying to escape. I think that chapter was called the Calling, right? When people were trying to escape and then the mermaids came. You like understood who was who. People like were speaking a different language, and then you were able to kind of like hear somebody die or get speared, and then like you kind of knew who it was, right? Like,
yeah, I think my favorite sound design parts, at least as far as the memories went, was when the guy got ripped apart by the Kraken or whatever.
Oh god,
just because
it was like
you hear it happening and it's so clear, like you can. The sound, it's so good that you can visualize what's happening. You know,
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Like, oh, yep, there
he got ripped apart. Yeah, and then you see it's just like his friend is carrying half of his body. Like, oh god,
yeah, freaking crazy. And then the memory where the artist died.
Oh, dude, that one's funny.
I was so confused because I'm like, it was like a mixture of, is he taking a shit? Is he getting like shit squeezed out of him? I think
he was taking a shit. Right? He was taking a shit off the side of the boat.
So that's what it sounded like. Either that or like the Kraken forcibly excreted it from.
That's even brutal, dude. That's crazy. That's worse than the cannon death at that point.
Yeah. No, honestly, the artist probably had one of the worst deaths because died with his drawers down.
Who had the worst death?
Getting ripped apart has to be, just as far as like gruesomeness, has to be one of the worst. That's the one that stands out to me the most. Charles. One of the guys that went against
Miner?
No. Like the chefs, or like one of the mates, I believe. He died during the crabs.
Oh, is he the one that just
fire?
Charlie, the guy that threw up on his own shoes and
yeah,
dude, that guy. Oh, dude, I felt bad for that guy. He like poured oil and then got set on fire. That was brutal. But he killed the crab. You know,
he did.
The sad one. Okay, so the death that got me. It's just a tragic one. Is he died for nothing, really. It was the guy that like they were bringing the mermaids into the ship after they captured them, and then all the guys were like bringing it down below deck, and then some guy got hit with the tail of a mermaid and got killed that way.
Oh yeah,
and then,
he was being a jackass though.
He was like, that was the cook, right? He said he was like, oh, let's cook this.
It was the cook or the butcher or something.
Yeah, and then he fell, and then he dropped the cargo. And then the other guy got killed from the fallen cargo.
Yeah.
So bad. I was like, oh, this poor top.
Were those two things linked? I thought it was something separate.
No, I think those were linked. I think that was the same moment.
Oh.
One guy got hit by the mermaid tail, dropped his portion of the weight, and the weight fell on the other guy and like stabbed his head through the thing. It was.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It was rough. There's a couple guys that died from the cold too. It's a sad way to go.
Yeah.
Very, very brutal for the time.
All right. Now, time for the Nani section. Lucas, what surprised you most during the game?
What made me say
Nani?
Dude, honestly, the crabs.
I remember I was so up to that point. I'm pretty sure I had already experienced the mermaids. Or people, whatever you want to call them. I had already experienced the Kraken. And at that point, I was just thinking, all right, mythical creatures, whatever. I remember when I finally got to the memory with the crabs, I sent you a picture. I was like, bro!
Yeah, dude, you were like, what is this? And I just like nodded my head, just like, yep, shit's crazy, man. Okay, mermaids. Like we've seen mermaids before. We've seen a Kraken. We've seen Pirates of the Caribbean before. But dude, the crab monsters.
Seen like little devils riding crab people. I had not seen that riding
shooting spikes, and like the sound design on the crabs was really creepy too.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, the screeching was just terrifying.
Yeah, dude.
That's probably one of the reasons I was always nervous at night playing this game.
Yeah, the crabs, dude. So I have. As everybody knows, we've been going through quarantine, right? And the first 5-6 weeks of quarantine, every Saturday I watched one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Okay, so then we played Obra Dinn a few weeks after I finished the 5th one. Okay, so I was really in the pirate sea ship mood, right? That's, we've seen the Krakens, we saw the mermaids in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? But we did not see those crabs.
I've never seen those crabs, man.
As far as the expanded sea lore universe, those were a surprise, right?
Yeah, I can't really think back to any time I've seen that. Yeah, I got nothing.
And for the audience, I want to say that most of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies aren't good. Please don't think that I have bad taste. I think first one's a classic, and the 4th one's really bad. You know what? They're all pretty bad. Except for the first one.
Yeah. The second one's okay. I think. That's this is for a different podcast.
No, we're talking about this. Okay, Dead Man's Chest, second one. Davy Jones.
I've only seen the first 3, I think.
Really? Don't even watch the fourth one. The fifth one, though, goes into the origin of Jack Sparrow. That part's cool.
But do we need to know? You know, it's like, do you need to know the Joker's origin? You know,
I mean, no.
exactly.
I like Jack. Jack Sparrow's a great.
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be fun to watch.
He would have
If you have a
survived
small
the
brain.
Obra Dinn. He would. Oh my god. He would have survived the Obra Dinn for sure.
Well, yeah, he survived the freaking Kraken and whichever one that was, second or third. See, now we have to put a spoiler warning in before this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers to Obra Dinn and Pirates of the Caribbean.
We're now converting to the Pirates of the Caribbean podcast right here. Okay, so I think next one, favorite moment. What part of the game made you go, whoa? Matt?
It's not necessarily the moment that made me go, whoa, the most, or like, I guess was the most like, oh my God, this is amazing. But for me, the most satisfying moment playing the game was without a doubt the figuring out Charles Miner's fate. He was the Burson's mate, I believe. And with the dialogue you get, or is that, am I saying that? The Bursar? No, the Bursar is Boston, something like that.
Yeah, these old sea-timey terms, man. They don't have those in Pirates of the Caribbean, so I don't know how to pronounce them.
But the clues up to that point lead you to believe the guy that gets ripped to half in the Doom is Charles Miner.
Yeah.
There's a scene later where the Boston or whatever his name is, the head guy, is taken away for his injuries, and he's like, "Oh, what happened to my Frenchman?"
My Frenchman, yeah.
He's like, "Oh, he got ripped. He got torn apart or something."
So you assume it's the tattoo guy.
Yeah, it's just okay. It must be the tattoo guy. I was so surprised because that was one of the first ones that I felt sure about, right? And the whole time I was like, why won't this click? You know, why won't I get this fate checked off? And then it was one of the last fates I got where I was revisiting the very last chapter in the Doom, or like the second to last, and I see next to the Bosun. Let's do the Basan. We see a guy that's just like trying to stab one of the tentacles of the Kraken as the Bosun gets his arm wrapped around before it gets yanked off.
Right.
So I was like, wait a minute. I have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea what happened to him. And I know that the guy who I think is Charles Miner, because I've seen him on the top ropes, I know he's a topman. And I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
All coming together.
And then I connected the dots. I made that guy Charles Miner, torn apart by a terrible beast.
Yep.
And I got it, and I felt great about myself.
Yeah. The game is good at giving you like bunch of little aha moments for sure. I think that was like one of the coolest things was like connecting someone's fate and then like finally figuring out who that guy is. It was so cool. But my favorite moment, honestly, is probably seeing the Doom for the first time. I know we're really big on the Crab Sea Warrior guys, but just like the first time you see the Doom, the music kicks in a certain way. And it's like the really epic song. And like, you just look and there's just this crazy beast and you're just walking around. I thought it was so cool. Cause like, I mean,
it sets the tone for sure.
It does. It makes you realize that like, this was a brutal thing that happened on this ship. Cause up until then you see like a mutiny, you see like something clearly went wrong, but you don't know exactly what went wrong.
Yeah. Like up until that point, Pirates of the Caribbean was the better piece of media.
yeah, exactly. And then like, you know, so we didn't really get to experience the Kraken and Pirates like we did in this game. That's why this was so cool. Because we had to see like how brutal, like people getting ripped apart. We were in people's faces. We saw how like how fearful they were, how scared they were, how like it was crazy because that whole moment, and this isn't just the first time you see the Doom, but going through that whole memory is like, you see that if it was a lesser writer or a less creative person, they all just would have gotten ripped apart or thrown off the ship by the Kraken. But a lot of people died from like misfiring a cannon or getting crushed by some cargo, or, you know, they didn't die during the initial attack of the Kraken. They died like moments before. There's all these little things that like, there's just so much going on at any given memory that you're like, it's hard to keep track of. It's tragic. It's scary. It's crazy. It's like,
and that was one of the challenges of the game too. It's just, there's so much going on at every freaking moment.
I know. Or it's like, whoa, this guy was getting torn apart by the Kraken while these guys were trying to get guns above deck. And these guys were trying to load the cannons. And then the cannon crushed this guy. And then it's like, and then these guys fell off the ship and fell off the boat. It's crazy.
I will say too, I guess backtracking a little bit, that was also one of my favorite parts of the game in general. And like design parts was just that sometimes the memories where a person was dying, that's not where you learned anything, you know? You didn't learn anything about that person. You had to explore the surroundings. And I really appreciated that because it was misdirecting, because I would just assume, okay, I'll learn everything I need to about this person and this memory.
Yeah.
But that wasn't always the case, and that was cool.
I thought, honestly, that once I got every single memory inside the book that I could, everything up until the bargain, I thought I was going to know way more about who was who, but I didn't. You don't know anything, really.
No.
At that point.
Dude, it was a stressful game.
Dude, you really struggled. You really struggled with the game. Yeah. I was enjoying it the whole time up until the part where I had to do a bunch of guesswork. And that's actually bringing to our next segment. Matt, you want to introduce the name of this segment?
What would Mickey like, aka what sucked about this game?
Okay, just we got a friend. His name is Mickey. Good guy.
One of the best
guys. He's just got some weird opinions on games sometimes. So, he might like some of these things that we are critiquing here. That's it.
It's our homage to a good friend.
Okay, what I think Mickey would like, I think the lack of an aha moment for me. I think whenever I've played a lot of mystery games, I know we brought up Phoenix Wright a second ago, and even when you read a mystery book or watch a movie, there's always a big, huge reveal aha moment, and it all comes together at once. Sure. This game didn't really have a big aha moment. It was kind of a bunch of small aha moments, which is fine. It's actually more of a unique way to experience a mystery that's still very interesting. But I was expecting, and this goes into my second critique, I was expecting the bargain chapter, which is the last chapter that's hidden up until you basically finish the game. I was expecting the bargain chapter to have a little bit more of a twist. But
right there with you.
Confirms what you already know.
Yep.
I think that's just the nature of the game, right? Like a small bunch of aha moments, confirmation after confirmation, corroborating stories, corroborating timelines and stuff like that. So I don't think it's a miss. I think it's just the intention of the design to have the bargain chapter played out the way it did. But that's my only thing. That's my only real critique of the game. Yeah,
I have pretty similar critiques to you, especially on the bargain chapter. My thing with the bargain chapter is it's led up to believe like it's going to be this aha moment. Because, it's like I feel like one of the bigger mysteries of the game is what happened in this chapter, right?
Right.
Because you don't even get access to it until you figure out everything that happened on the ship as is. That was just a little disappointing for me personally, that there wasn't that kind of big plot twist, because it was like, okay, they had to make a deal with the mermaids to get the Kraken to stop. Like,
right.
I feel like, well, I did personally deduce that. Like, that wasn't anything shocking. Like, I could have came to that conclusion on my own eventually.
The chapter was called The Bargain, and right after the chapter, the Kraken stopped attacking. So it's like pretty clear that there was some sort of like deal that was made, and
exactly,
the Kraken stopped. So it was like a very like straightforward like reveal for me. To be honest, this is not a critique or anything, but I thought the game, there was going to be some sort of twist where someone was in a memory that wasn't supposed to be in that memory. And there was going to be some sort of weird like crossover, or somebody was immortal, or somebody like shouldn't have been dead. I thought that was going to be like kind of a creepier,
like some like third party power at play or something.
Yeah, something like that. I thought there was going to be like some sort of unanswerable question kind of thing, but it kind of all ties it together nicely in a little bow, which is cool.
As far as the aha moments that you were talking about, I do want to say, I think the game, while the story itself didn't have maybe necessarily any aha moments, mm-hmm. I think the gameplay gave you sort of the same feeling and satisfaction of aha, like I got it type of thing. You know what I mean? Even if it wasn't the aha surprise story wise, I still got that same kind of rush by making the connections and figuring things out, I think.
Yeah.
Like I can't, like the Charles Minor thing was just very
you love that. You love that thing.
That was the best moment of the game. No questions asked.
Yeah. Charles Minor,
baby. I do think though there were questionable choices design wise as far as depicting some of the deaths went, because there were points too where I got to the game and I clearly see, okay, this person died, but like I don't understand, was this them getting eaten? Was this them getting clawed? Exactly. Yep. Did they fall off the rigging into the ocean? Did they fall off the rigging into the... So I didn't like those parts, because at that point it was just me scrolling through deaths trying to...
It was guesswork.
It was guesswork.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, actually. That is something that I think Mickey would like as well. Is like just... there was a point where you're literally like, okay, this person is clearly getting eaten by a mermaid. So I'm going to make the death cannibalized by a terrible beast or whatever it was.
And then it's clawed or something.
And it's clawed. Yeah. And it was clawed. And I was like, well, and then I look back to the memory. Did she get clawed right before she got bit into? I'm not quite sure. And I think there was just a lot of, I don't know, maybe that's the part of the game that's supposed to be challenging. But for me, it was just a little arbitrarily like defined.
Yeah. And it kind of took away from the excitement of getting the memory correct and getting the fate correct. Because at that point I was just like, well, I personally know it happened in my own eyes. I don't know what Lucas Pope thinks happened.
Yeah,
Mr. Game Designer. Yeah.
Mr. Game Designer, man. No, yeah, I think that was the only thing that was a little tough, was just figuring out and guessing those different fates. But then when there were some fates that were pretty obvious, that was really cool. The thing, like the Charles Minor thing, like you're bringing up, there was like a small twist in that one, because it's a misdirection, right? It's not arbitrarily difficult. It's just like, oh, this guy got torn apart, so you're assuming only one guy got torn apart, but it's possible that two people did, but you just missed it. And that's like a really, I don't know, that's a really interesting thing. So
it leaves, you have to do a lot of deductive reasoning.
Deductive reasoning. Yeah, man. Overall, my just concluding thoughts, final thoughts, this thing has the Lucas Luna seal of approval. I think it's a phenomenal game that everybody should play, or at least understand, or watch a video on it, or see how cool it is. I think like my dad would enjoy seeing this game. I think like it's kind of such a unique thing in terms of like just the mechanics of it and the mystery of it.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. I think it crosses generations. I think it's like insanely unique. Big Lucas recommendation for sure.
And real quick, let me ask you, Lucas, I know we've already played Papers, Please, but will you continue to play Lucas Pope's games as they come out?
Yeah. I think he's a great developer. I'll just play him for the sound design at this point, because Papers, Please had that super good sound design too. And then Obra Dinn, same thing. I think he's
absolutely
just an insanely good developer. He's got a lot of creative freedom and creative control, really cool themes in his games, especially Papers, Please. Super, super cool setting and theme. Another big recommendation if anyone's trying to play any other games by this developer, because if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably already played Obra Dinn.
Hopefully. And if not, that's fine too. Go play. You'll still enjoy it because there's so much to figure out.
Does this podcast have the Matthew Rockaby Segoy of approval?
Hi. This podcast does have the Matt Rockaby Segoy of approval. Well, I did complain in the beginning, and I stand by those complaints, that it was very difficult for people of my IQ level. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I wanted to finish it, even if I was frustrated with it, just because I was like, it was interesting, and it was a story I wanted to learn about and figure out what happened. And it did make me want to keep finding out the next fate and finding out discovering the next memory and things like that. So I liked it a lot. It was fun. While difficult, it was a lot of fun, and it was interesting. And, this is what I like about Lucas Pope's game, is they're very kind of experimental, I think. Papers, Please was very I don't know of anything else like Papers, Please, personally. And while this game does obviously fall into the kind of like deductive reasoning detective category, I don't know any other games like this. Any other games that really call upon in my opinion, your brain power this much and ask you to think this hard.
Yeah. I think he's super idea driven as a developer.
Dude, he's a big thinker.
Yeah, he has a huge brain.
Papers, Please was just like work.
Dude, that game did feel like work at a certain point. Maybe we'll do that game on the pod officially.
Yeah, he clearly loves having people use their brain and going outside the traditional metrics of what a game can be and the traditional idea of what a game can be. So
exactly.
That has the Segoy of approval.
All right. Awesome. Cool. I think that's all we got for today. Matt, where can we find you online?
Be found on Twitter at Great Job Matthew.
And I could be found on Twitter and Instagram at Great Job Lucas.
Alrighty, folks. And if you have any questions or anything you want to bring up, you can also email us at thanksforplayingpod@gmail.com.
Awesome. This has been Thanks for Playing. Catch you next time.